Time now for everybody's favorite guessing game, What's My Line? Brought to you by Remington Rand, makers of the world's #1 electric shaver, the Remington. Now, let's all play What's My Line?
And now, let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the popular columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in the New York Journal-American and papers coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you. And on my left this evening, we're very happy to welcome back the author of a fascinating and very amusing book called Treadmill to Oblivion, Mr. Fred Allen.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dorothy. I hope you're enjoying the book as far as you are up to now.
I certainly am, Fred.
Well, thank you. And on my left, ladies and gentlemen, a young lady who told me tonight that she has knows a man who has 21-21 vision. Every time he comes out of 21, he sees 2 21s. Miss Arlene Francis.
I'll tell you what, I wish I'd said it, Fred. And on my left, the renowned publisher of Random House, who fortunately for all the rest of us has published one of the funniest books I've ever read, No Time for Sergeants. Buy it now. Then it's served.
This is competition, huh?
Competition for Fred. Well, thank you, Arlene. I just want to tell you that out in Detroit, where I've just come back from, they think that you and Dorothy are the 2 most beautiful things in the country, with the possible exception of the 1955 Chrysler, Cadillac, and Ford. On my left is the man who, in my opinion, is more responsible for the success of this show than all the rest of us put together. Our wonderful panel moderator, John Charles Daly.
I wouldn't try to spoil such a nice introduction with some bad humor. I was going to say that I'd paid him all the money I owed him tonight, but I won't. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line? Sunday night, so we're up to our old tricks. We have some very interesting occupations and some very nice people with them tonight to give the panel some trouble. Later on, we'll have a famous guest challenger, but I think now is the time for the panel to meet the first of the challengers whose line has to be spotted. So would you sign in, please, ma'am? Gunyi? Gunyi? Wait a minute. Gunyi Torgesia daughter, is that right? Thank you very much. Torgesia daughter. Torgesia daughter. Yeah. And where are you from?
Iceland.
From Iceland? Well, that's wonderful. It's nice to have somebody come all the way from Iceland down here to give the panel a really rough time. The panel over there are really very nice people. They just look kind of hard, you know, but they're really nice people, and they want to get a closer look at you. So would you take a walk down in front of the panel and then come back and see me?
Hello. Would you pronounce your name for us again?
Gurney.
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 Nice to see you, Gurney.
You're welcome.
All right, Miss Tuggis' daughter, will you come over here, please, and sit down next to me? And we give the panel now one free guess as to what your line may be, because they've had a chance to meet you and see your handwriting and so forth. And we begin the free guesses with Miss Kilgallen.
I think she breeds penguins.
Breeds penguins. Mr. Allen.
I think she makes those long nightgowns for the long nights that they have.
Miss Fred.
I think she's an exchange student to America.
Mr. Cerf.
Well, you're not going to catch us again, John. I think she washes reindeer.
No, I'm afraid not. We'll let our viewers have a further look at Miss Tuggis' daughter, and at the same time, we will tell them what her line is. All right. Folks at home, no, but the panel's got to dig. Now, do you know how we score this, Miss Tuggis' daughter? Every time you can say no to them, I flip a card. 10 of these flips, and you've won the game. All set? Now, would you lean forward a little bit, because you have to talk into that microphone so we can hear you, okay? All right, Miss Tuggis' daughter is salaried, and we'll begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Do you deal in services?
Yes.
Do you, by any chance, work for a non-profit-making organization?
No.
No, that's 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Allen.
Do you perform these services in Iceland
Yes.
exclusively?
Yes.
Would it be unusual if a woman performed a similar service in this country? It would be.
Yes.
Well, I don't know much about how things are going up in Iceland since it's been defrosted. But, do the services that the services that you perform, do they make people happy up there?
Yes.
Certainly sometimes they do, I think. Yes.
Occasionally.
Well, sometimes, more than occasionally, we would hope.
I mean, not by appointment.
Not by appointment, nor in every instance.
No, or in every instance. Well, do you, now all I have to find out is what makes people happy up in Iceland.
That's right.
Do you, it must be some hot answer, hot rod answer or something. Do you deal in plumbing supplies or heating supplies, anything like that?
No.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
Well, Gunya, is there a product of some kind connected with what you do?
No.
No, not as we would declare a connection in normal usage. Well, that's 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Sir.
Gunya, do you require some special kind of training for the work that you do? Education or training?
Educational training.
Education
Thank
or
you.
training?
Oh, education.
Or training.
No harm in trying, Bennett, you know. Man's got a right. I would say this, that there is a degree of expertness necessary to the proper functioning in this job that would require training, yes.
Does this affect in any way the health of the people that you come in contact with?
Well, it could affect the health, actually, but in such a tangential way that I think we'll have to rule that the proper answer to the question is no. 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Would children ever be concerned with your work? Or would your work ever be concerned with children?
No, thanks very much. That's 5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Allen.
The services that you perform, are they performed indoors?
Got to have a conference.
Knew that was coming.
No. I mean, no. 6 down and 4 to go, Miss Francis.
Gunya, do you deal with both men and women in your job?
Yes.
And you deal with them out of doors?
Yes.
Do you show them anything?
Not out of doors.
Well, I would say this, that
Sometimes it's warm in Iceland.
we can always, get instruction from watching an able performer in any area.
By that I meant, do you have anything at all to do with performing something yourself?
Yes, I would say she performs something.
Would it be connected at all with the sports world?
Yes.
Yes.
You say that it, John, did I understand you to say, or Gunya to say, that this is indigenous to Iceland, that we don't have this here?
No, what we did say was that she herself purveys her services exclusively in Iceland, and Fred found out that if she were to perform those services here, it would be unusual. Rather than the normal thing.
Is this sport considered a game?
No, I don't think we call this a game. No, that's 7 down and 3 to go, Mr. Sir.
Gunya, would any kind of dogs be mixed up in the thing that you do?
Isn't that funny? Dogs, that's
Well,
no.
feed a dog, too.
8 down and 2 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Well, Gunya, do you have to be quite strong to do what you do?
No, I don't think so. Do you?
No.
No, and I think we can prove the brief on that later on. 9 down and 1 to go, Mr. Allen.
What you do, Gunya, I was going to try it out. Everybody else had to go at it. What you do, does it involve an animal or a mammal?
Yes.
An animal? Is it a four-legged animal?
Yes.
It is a four-legged animal. Is it an animal that is indigenous to... This night has not been wasted. I've learned 2 words on the panel. Indigenous and gunya. Is it, do you have anything to do with the elimination of the race of reindeer up there?
No, that's 10 down and no more to go. Hang on to your hats because Miss Torgersdottir is a racehorse jockey in Iceland. And I believe, actually, one of the rules is, what do you have to weigh 65 kilos to race there, don't you?
Yes.
Which means that they have a much larger standard for jockeys than we have in this country.
I thought they rode seals up there. I didn't know.
It's
They
not
have-
a game.
No, that's not called a game. Sport of kings, you know.
Of course, darling.
Rather.
And the king
Now-
thought it was pretty gamey sometimes.
Could you say one brief sentence for us in Icelandic? I've never heard it spoken. Say, fine-looking panel you have there.
But you can't say that.
Just say something in Icelandic.
Come inside.
I agree with you 100%, and it's been grand having you with us, and you've won the full prize, and you're grand. Thanks very much. A real tough one, panel. Now let's see what you can do with another challenger. Will you sign in, please, sir? Wim L. Jenkins. Right, sir? William L. Jenkins? Well, Mr. Jenkins, that's a fine authoritative handwriting you have. Where are you from, sir?
Lexington, Kentucky.
Lexington, Kentucky.
Right.
Well, it's nice to have Kentuckian from the bluegrass region. We've had... You don't raise horses, I'm sure, I hope, or something, because I'd be in a great spot if you did, wouldn't I? Well, the panel would like to get a closer look at you. Would you be good enough to take a walk over there and see them?
Hello, Mr. Jenkins.
Jenkins, how are you?
All right, Mr. Jenkins, will you come over here, please, and sit down next to me? And the panel gets one free guess as to what your line may be. And we'll begin those free guesses with Miss Kilgallen.
I think Mr. Jenkins is a certified public accountant.
Mr. Allen.
Well, I think down in Kentucky, Mr. Jenkins raises a filter plant to go along with the tobacco that they're using today.
Miss Francis.
I think he keeps the blue glass blue.
Mr. Cerf.
Blue grass.
I think Mr. Jenkins owns a couple of enormous distilleries down in Kentucky.
No, I'm afraid nobody has it. We'll let our viewers have a further look at Mr. Jenkins. At the same time, we'll tell them what his line is, but the panel will have to dig it out. All right, Mr. Jenkins, you know how we score this here game?
Yeah, I think I do.
All right, we're all set then. Mr. Jenkins is salaried. We'll begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Well, do you have anything to do with the sport of kings, as we have called it
No.
tonight? No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Jenkins, you have the look of an executive about you. Could it possibly be that you work for a non-profit-making organization?
Yes.
Are you a public official of any kind whatever?
It's an interesting question, isn't it?
Interesting.
He hopes to be.
Give us your definition of a public official, if you will, Bennett.
Now, I want an answer yes or no.
Now, we have to have the dimensions. If you mean by a public official someone elected or appointed to office, is that what you mean in their community or doing
Well, all
charitable
right, just
work in the community or working for the Chamber of Commerce or something like that?
That would give me a no, is that correct?
Oh, no.
Well, all right, I'll ask you. Have you been elected to office or appointed to office, or are you running for some office?
Covers a lot of ground, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, which is it? You have a hopeful look about you, Mr. Jenkins. Could it be that you're up for some election on Tuesday?
No.
Doggone, isn't that 2 down and 8 to go? Miss Kilgallen.
Well, then you are now holding some sort of office. Is that correct?
He is working, yes.
Well, can we eliminate elected offices such as mayor or governor on the grounds that there would be no hesitation in John's mind under those circumstances.
Yes.
Are you then appointed to whatever you do?
Yes.
Do you work indoors?
Yes.
Do you work in what might be considered something other than an office?
Yes, in part.
In part, I mean,
Do
he has
you
an
have
office. too.
anything to do with the law in any sense?
That's tough.
Yes, isn't it? Anything to do with the law in any sense. Small conference. We would say that there is a qualified yes to that answer.
Well, we can eliminate judge, I guess. You're not a judge? Is that correct?
That's correct.
You're not a prosecuting attorney or a member of his staff?
No.
No, he is not yes.
May we also rule out penal institutions?
Yes.
I'm rapidly running out of offices here. Do you deal with both men and women?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Allen.
Do you have certain hours, specified hours that you work?
No. Basically, I'd say yes.
Yes. Do you wear a uniform when you work?
Yes.
I pass.
I think we got 4 prosecuting attorneys sitting right over there, don't you, Mr. Jenkins? All right.
Yeah, good ones, too.
I'm going to give you 1 more minute because, frankly, you don't seem to be getting near this. Miss Francis.
Well, would you have a job in the community that you are part of that has to do with something other than just the human race?
Make them tough.
Yes, it
is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, then this would be something like dogs and cats and horses and some sort of an animal like that?
No, that's very nice. That's 4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Seth.
Well, Mr. Jenkins, we never did discover which sex it is you kidded around with. You said it was not men and women.
Oh, alligator.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is it one of those two that you deal with?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, let's take a quick guess and say it's men.
Yes.
It is men.
Yes.
And you wear some kind of a uniform.
Yes.
Would there be anything connected in any vague way with religion in what you do?
No.
And
Not
I'm
the
going to
human
flip the
race.
cards. The minute is up because you don't seem to be getting even close to this one. It's a very good occupation, and I don't blame you for having trouble finding it. Mr. Jenkins guards the gold at Fort Knox. In fact, he has supervision of the whole guard operation. So, Mr. Jenkins, you get the full prize. Our thanks for being a very interesting guest. Nice to see you. All right, in just
You
a
mean
moment.
they won't let the women near Fort Knox?
Well, he doesn't deal with them. All of his work is the
I
men do
see.
it, you see. In just a moment, we'll meet tonight's mystery. Now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity. My friends on the panel have blindfolds for this part of the program. Are they all in place, panel?
Yes.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? All right, panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we get right down to the business of the evening, and we will begin this general questioning then with Fred Allen.
I gather from the reception you received that you are very, very, very well known by sight, sir. Oh, are you a man or a woman, incidentally?
That can't be answered yes or no, Fred.
Possibly. In Christine's case, you might get an answer. You are identified with the entertainment business.
Si, senor.
You are in the entertainment business. Are you better known for picture work than you are in the theater?
Yeah.
Have you made any appearances in television?
He's left.
I think his interpreter died or something. Have you made any television appearances?
Yep.
Do you have a regular television show?
I'm dead.
I almost think I know who it is. And you're not from Iceland, I assume.
That's right.
You have a weekly television show. Is it a comedy show? I mean, would you admit that it is a comedy show?
Uh-huh.
Is it a situation comedy show?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a situation now and you're employed.
Uh-huh.
I think I know who it is, frankly.
Jump, then.
Did you become famous suddenly one season for appearing in a picture called Lost Weekend?
I'm afraid you're right, Fred.
No?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah.
Well, who is it?
Would you not say the name?
Oh, Ray Milland.
Ray Milland. The Lost Weekend and most recently Dial M for Murder. But,
I was dying to get a shot at, about killing someone, so I could say Lee Wallowa.
Oh, Mr. Ray Milland. Mr. Ray Milland, Mr.
Lee
Guest
Milland,
on
yes.
program.
He got a program on our
public-
network on Thursday night, CBS.
Yes, on CBS.
The Ray Milland program at 8 o'clock.
Yes, and a friend of mine who was associated with me, Harry Dugan, many years ago, now produces a show.
That's right.
Plug over.
It's
Ray,
wonderful.
I'm sorry that it... Well, Alan's dynamite, but thanks very much for being
I'll
our
never
guest.
get away with anything.
Good to
No,
see you, Pappy. Would you say goodbye to your family? All right, now let's see what we can do, panel. You have less than 3 minutes to try to catch another final challenger. Will you sign in, please, sir? Oscar Ansel. Right, sir? Where are you from?
Springfield, Illinois.
Mr. Ansel is from Springfield, Illinois. We are going to dispense with the walk down. More than that, we are going to dispense with the wild guesses.
You can
Come
dispense
with
me, too, if you want.
No, you've got to stay, Fred. All right, Mr. Ansel, if you just sit down, the panel gets a look at you. What we will do is let the folks at home know exactly what your line is, but the panel is going to have to dig. So now let's let the folks at home know what Mr. Ansel's line is. Panel, you get ready to work very fast. All right, you know how we score this, Mr. Ansel?
Yes, sir.
You all set?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ansel is salaried. We'll begin the general questioning with Bennett, sir.
Well, first, take away Ray Milland.
It's done.
I wanted to say I thought it might be either June Allison or Dick Powell on tonight, but they're sitting in the front row here, and I thought they might jump up. But Mr. Ansel, the fact that you come from Springfield, would your work have anything to do with the fact that that's the state capital of Illinois?
No, sir.
No direct. Would not have any bearing upon his work. 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Kilgallen, and you have just about a minute to go.
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a product involved in what you do?
Yes, ma'am.
Would I ever use it?
Yes, ma'am.
Would Fred?
Yes.
Would it be found in the home?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Allen.
Is it a product that comes in contact with the body of the person who uses it?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but it could, and it might be considered, I think, generally,
Something
to have
you
the
could put on,
potential.
huh?
So you go ahead, Fred.
Is it a product that is made of metal?
Yes, sir.
It is made of metal. Is it... I don't like your look, Mr. I pass again.
Well, Fred, actually, I was going to have to...
Which were the
I was going to have to ring down the curtain because, unhappily, we've run out of time. I wish we did have another minute left because this would be real fun. You see, Mr. Ansel sells voting booths. We're close on, you know? So, Mr. Ansel, you get the full prize. Thanks for being our guest. It's nice to have you. Sells voting booths, and it was a rough night, but our most interesting night. Thank you, panel. We'll be back in just... Well, Dorothy Kilgallen goes back in just a minute or two to Cleveland to cover the Shepard trial. So tonight, until next week, this is John Daly saying good reporting and good night, Miss Dorothy.
Thank you, John. Good night, Fred.
Thank you, Dorothy. Good night. Arlene, your name is?
That's right. 2121 vision. Remember? That's good for you, Steve. Good night, Bennett. Happy Ohio and Michigan.
Thank you. All I have to do is compete with Liberace up there. Good night, John.
That'll be a race. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us on What's My Line?
This has been a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production in association with the CBS Television Network.